Meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, friends, and you are our friends. Welcome to Green for Life. Uh, I'm a Kotzebue City Councilman. I'm the treasurer of the Green Party of Alaska, and I've just become the president of the Kotzebue Chess Club. I'm Joshua Hadley, up in Kotzebue, Alaska, and this show is special because we're coast to coast. Representing us from Maine is my co-host John. Oh, okay. Would you like to introduce yourself, John?
Yeah, I was a founding member of the Green Party of Hawaii back in 1989. I've been green ever since. Um, I lived there 36 years and was all the way back to being an original SDS anti-draft person. Um, and then Peace and Freedom Party. And then later on in 89, we formed the Hawaii Green Party. So then I came back to my home state of Maine in 2001 when my dad was turning 90 and got active with the Maine Green Independent Party and have been on the state steering committee 3 times and the last time as the state co-chair. So that's a little bit of my background. I live on 80 acres of land. We four brothers have inherited, and I grow some organic blueberries and some vegetables for myself. The berries I sell.
So, how's the weather going on in Maine? I'm living up here in Kotzebue, Alaska, and the weather, like, we've been having 40-mile-an-hour winds for a week. Um, I had a Christmas tree set up outside. I didn't take anything down till yesterday. Finally, it's been so cold with the wind. Like,
Well, overnight we had a snowstorm of about maybe 5 inches, but it was a little tiny one. I mean, it's not the big, beautiful floating down snow that we like to see. This is just more like a sleet, but it was about 20 degrees. I suspect that geoengineering has a lot to do with that. But it's very calm now. Sun's out, blue sky, more or less, no wind. But we've got a big storm coming in a few days. It might be the one that's been sweeping across the country. I think, well, that's what it is. And we may get a power outage again. About 3 weeks ago, we had where I am, we had a 55-hour power outage. So that was interesting.
wow, man, I don't think I've ever had. Well, I don't know. I've been out camping, but I've never been home and had the power out that long. Yeah.
It's common in Maine, partly because we got so many trees and the power lines that are under them, and branches fall, trees fall, and it's not the most advanced system here, and uh, we have the less our Central Maine Power Company has the least favorable rating of any power company in the country.
Oh, wow. Dang.
But what
That
we
that
did
makes
though,
sense.
we did try to get it. There was a referendum recently that lost, unfortunately, to take it over and have it be run as a Maine-owned institution rather than a private organization with foreign owners ultimately. So it didn't. We didn't win because they had a media blitz and talked about how much it would cost and on and on and on and on. So their message was more broadcast more often and stronger than ours was. But there was a substantial support for taking it over as a private, as a public utility. That was the idea.
Wow. Well, all right. Well, on this show, we don't break the news, we fix it. And we we got there's a so there I just a story. So I'm on Kotzebue City Council. In one of our meetings in December, I tell their youth representative, "Hey, I'm a officer of the Green Party of Alaska," and he asked me, "Which Green Party?" And I was taken aback. Like, not that I didn't know about the other Green Party, but like, so, I mean, that he even that's even a question, and that's part of like why we're doing this show. I mean, just to say, all right, to discuss and put out there like what it means to be a green. We're gonna get into that with Robert Shields. He's gonna be a guest on this program later. He's the chairman of the Green Party of Alaska. But let's talk some news. Last month it was reported that well they made the announcement. The Aurora Party got Cornel West onto the ballot here in Alaska. Um, yeah, I'm not really sure if he is on the ballot or if the party has the ballot, but it's been very strange that they announced it this way. It's I mean, I wonder what's gonna happen when all these people excited for Cornel West, if it is like the party's ballot, like if they just say if say Jill Stein wins the Green Party primary and they switch over to her, like I mean, I imagine this is the way they did this is gonna hurt some people's feelings.
Yeah, well, certainly we know that the Cornel West first was running on People's Party, then he switched to Green, and he got out of Green, and I guess running independent now, or I don't think he's affiliated with any party. So he's, you know, uh, I think not too grounded in what the political realities are with regard to parties and getting on the ballot and how do you qualify? He's got a big mountain ahead of him if he's going to make any progress. Um, and then of course with Jill is well known. Has really worked hard in 2012 and 2016. She worked very hard on getting ballot access. That was the main part of her work, and she was well received. She got a lot of love from people all over the country. And she's running again this year, kind of by default, because there's after Cornel West switched out again, it's going to be well who, and a lot of times the, uh, the ballot access depends on having a presidential candidate in some states and getting a certain percentage. So, but what I'm interested in is having some discussion with her, who I've met several times, and having some discussion about the issues. And I suspect that she has some gatekeepers that are keeping us from being able to contact her directly. Uh, but I'd like to be able to engage her in some of the issues that she's been kind of nebulous on.
And one more thing before we move on from the Aurora Party, I think interesting. Like I'm looking over the website, and for Alaskans, this is very interesting. So the Aurora Party, now who has Cornel West at their helm, saying will raise the permanent dividend to $10,000 to establish Alaska Universal Basic Income. So the PFD, the permanent fund dividend, is if you ever watched the Simpsons movie, it's when Homer goes to Alaska and he's like, "All right, I'm here," and they hand him here's $1,000. That that's sort of a joke. Like they pay Alaskans to live here. That's what the PFD is from the oil money, but now a lot from investment money is coming in. Alaska has shares in companies in Japan, China, but mostly America. Like Nintendo, for example. This could all be looked up on Twitter very quickly. Um, but they say we can eliminate poverty and raise the living standards of working and poor people in Alaska by raising the PFD to $10,000. With over 76 billion on hand, the PFD can support this initiative to support each and every Alaskan annually through this transformative initiative. So my worry a lot of the time is like we're making the PFD too high, and instead of like, all right, we're gonna make this money and try to, make a dividend. They're actually dipping into the savings a lot of the time to, you know, give people more money. Like this is sort of the worry for some people if we have a universal basic income and it's happening in Alaska is all the politics revolves around like how much money we're gonna make, how much money they're gonna pay us. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean,
Yeah, can you
if you do
identify
this
the
with our
phrase?
system, we're cooked.
A PFE stands for what exactly?
Oh, a PFD, permanent fund dividend.
Oh, PFD. Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah,
from the oil revenue, correct?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think they're making a crazy promise. But let's move on from the Aurora Party. No one knows who they are. Even I don't really know who they are. But so I mean,
Much less me over here in Maine.
yeah. So John, let's so I mean, I imagine you're paying attention, to the news a little bit. I'm paying attention to Biden and Trump. I mean, this sort of seems like the presidential campaign no one wants.
Well, I call him Mr. Awful and Mr. Terrible. And that's
Absolutely.
no choice. The correct answer, the correct vote is no. It's like, do you want to be hanged? Would you rather be hanged or shot? No.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was watching Jill Stein talk, and she was asked how you feel about being a spoiler, but there's no question. Well, if Biden's so worried about using young people to Trump like he is now, why the like? I'm sorry, but doing a genocide, ethnic cleansing, supporting that, that should always be politically advantageous to anyone. Sorry, that's how I feel.
And that's the big mammoth in the kitchen for Robert Kennedy. I mean, he's good on so many issues, but when it comes to Gaza, he's been absolutely atrocious. And it is
Yeah, I agree.
incomprehensible, other than wanting money from certain donors. Other than that, it's absolutely incompatible with the rest of his narrative. I mean, he's been good about exposing the CIA and exposing the who killed his dad and who killed Kennedy, and we all know, at least a lot of us know, that was basically a government operation that involved the CIA, the FBI, the local police at the top, um, the autopsy doctors, the army doctors had some role in that, and his personal security detail all basically conspired to make it happen and cover it up. So he's up to speed on all of that, and also on the COVID question, he's been wonderful on exposing the COVID issue um, as being a total tyranny. But when it comes to Gaza, he's just been polar opposite, been awful.
And Trump, I mean, he's talking about like being a dictator, like in a joking way, but like, why is that okay? And he's got all these crimes that he's dealing with. I mean, he tried to steal the election. I mean, like, I think unfortunately, a lot of people, they don't consider the third option. I mean, there's so many other people, like not even on the presidential ballot, but um,
Mm.
they're supported by members of Congress and all the other elected officials, unfortunately. Um, we were gonna see. I think we done a lot of time on news already. We do have a guest, and we would like to
Okay.
talk to him. Um,
All right.
so we have coming out of the show this week. We're gonna look into having guests. I don't know if we could do it every episode, but you know, uh, hopefully we can. We'd like to invite people on and talk about themselves, issues, what they're doing, the type of advocacy they're doing. It's we're not looking to always have people in politics. But this is a political show, so that's the nature of it, folks. Um, I met this guy in 2020 when I was messaging the Green Party of Alaska's Facebook group looking to get involved back then, and he's been a great friend of mine, Robert Shields from Fairbanks, the chairman of the Green Party of Alaska.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen.
Okay. Hi, Robert.
Morning, Robert.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for putting this show on. It's especially with this election that nobody wants. It's really important for people to recognize that there are third-party options, not just the Green Party. We got the Libertarians. We've got independent parties. People need to understand that there's more options out there than just this turd sandwich and douchebag. And we really need to lift ourselves up and support each other in looking for alternatives and voting for someone we want, not just trying to vote for someone we don't want or the lesser of two evils. And the the whole idea of spoilers, we had that come up. I became chair of the Green Party in 2018 because it was a box in somebody's desk. In 2016, my research indicates that it's largely the responsibility of the Democrats, but using the spoiler language. And for me, anybody who calls somebody a spoiler just tells me that that person is undemocratic, because diversity, choice is part of democracy, and trying to shame people into limiting their choices to yes or no, black and white, red and blue, is anti-democratic. So that's why it's important that we have these kind of things. That's why I'm very grateful for you guys to put this show on, as well as Justin, who's working in the booth to kind of help smooth everything over. So good morning, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, and as far as spoiling, if you got two rotten apples, how do you spoil them? Yeah, they're already spoiled.
So,
Okay.
Robert, I wanted to ask, how you enjoying the winter over in Fairbanks? John and I, we talked about the weather a bit. How you holding up? I know in Central Alaska the weather's more extreme over there.
Extreme is a good word for it. Right now, it's about 18 above zero, which is a heat wave. The average temperature this time of year should be about 20 below, but it's going to drop back down to 20 below here tomorrow. So it's been really fluctuating between like 10 and 20 above, 10 and 20 below. Usually during January, we get this is when we would normally get our 30 to 40 below winter, and temperatures stay that cold for weeks. But in the last couple of years, we haven't seen 40 below in Alaska or in the interior. And this year, we usually have about 4 to 6 feet of snow. This year, we've probably got less than 2 feet. And so it's going to make a difference here in the spring. And I'm a dog owner. So I'm out in the weather all the time, walking the dog, being out enjoying the trails and stuff like that. And I love it. I love winter time here. I don't do heat very well, so my favorite temperature is around zero. But that's
I'm just the opposite.
Yeah,
After 36 years in Hawaii, where the average temperature is probably about 77 year round, coming back to Maine was, of course, I grew up here, so I knew it. But I will compare what we had when I was a kid, a long time ago, when we did get 20 below here. And I think I've only seen once in the 22 years I've been back, 23 years since I've been back. I think only once did it hit 20 below. It's mostly the most it goes down to maybe 15 below, but even that, mostly it's above zero here throughout the winter. We might get a few days under zero, but so the weather has changed.
Yeah. So some of the things that I bring that I feel is unique to the Green Party is that I've always been involved in politics, because I recognize that politics is the relationship you have with the people you don't have a relationship with. Like when you're when you're driving down a road and somebody's coming towards you, you don't have any kind of relationship with them. You don't. So all you can trust is the system, that they're going to stay on the side of the road, that they chose to be sober, that they've got a good car and all that kind of stuff. Now, you don't even trust them, but you trust the system in place. And that's one of the biggest problems we have in politics these days, is that we don't trust the system. We don't trust our government. And unfortunately, it's for good reasons. So one of the things that I've tried to bring to the Green Party from my perspective is an understanding of permaculture. From my perspective, permaculture is a Rosetta Stone of indigenous wisdom that has been proven for eons to be effective at lowering the cost of living and improving the quality of life. A lot of people think of regenerative agriculture and, the Three Sisters and permaculture from the growing food perspective, and it certainly has its foundations in that, but it really provides a framework for having advancing an enlightened planetary civilization, where we can have a successful and prosperous society, and at the same time be able to protect our environment. And so one of the things that I did when I became chair was I got the permaculture principles, the 12 principles of permaculture, integrated into our bylaws. And this provides a perspective on everything we do, and that allowed us to, it encourages us to develop a 10-year plan, which is what we're working on now, to see Alaska become a prime example of how America by 2030 can be leaders of the fossil-free world. And what I mean by fossil-free is that we're always going to have carbon around, but what we've developed is the recognition that it's, back in the 50s, coal, oil, selling it, burning it, that's what we had. That's got us where we are, but it will not get us where we want to go. And we recognize that if we use coal as an example, a ton of coal sold as fuel is only worth $80. But a ton of coal sold as or manufactured into a carbon composite is worth $220,000 a ton. So now we got a resource that we can only burn or run in our cars, and we have a building material that we can build bridges, homes, heart stents, cars, all kinds of things with. And I think this is the future of America. Is we're always going to have carbon, we just won't burn it, we'll build with it. So that's why those are the main things that I feel like I bring to the Green Party, and my sense of comprehensive improvement. We can't just expect that politics alone is going to change everything. We can't legislate our way out of this problem. We have to take civic responsibility, personal responsibility, and so that's
Absolutely, Robert. I don't know what's going on. You got cut out there, but
why we try to
something.
integrate.
I think.
Oh, good. So I apologize for that. I got a call, but it's good news because it's a call from one of the investors that last year offered me $5 billion to develop green infrastructure. So I'll get back to that call later.
Take the call. Take the call. Take the call.
I'll get back to
Well,
that.
if it's not important, they're gonna. All right. Oh, here they are. But Robert, when I think politics, Teddy Roosevelt was president, but he had a William Bryan's Janet or whatever his name was running against them. The Republicans have the Democrats. The Labor has the Tories. I started getting involved with the party with I contacted you 4 years ago. We did something, and this Green Party of Alaska is not part of the National Green Party. And like I said, when I did the city council meeting last month, I was asked, "Are you this Green Party or are you the other Green Party?" And I think that's a little bit of an issue when people go to the poll, when the voters go to the polls and they're like, what's going on here? Can you go into some of the issues surrounding this Aurora Party?
Sure. Well, it actually started in 2020 when we were trying to determine how to nominate our candidate. We were approached by what we were told was the Green Party's national ballot access committee, and they offered to get us ballot access. We were told we would be given the opportunity to choose our own candidate, which is our rights as Alaskans. And so we agreed to that. But after they got ballot access, after they paid for the signature gathering, they tried to force us into saying that we had no choice but to pick Howie Hawkins. And we talked to our Secretary of State, we talked to legal representation, and the truth is that was not true. What they were telling us wasn't true. And so we put it to the vote of the people. We put out a poll of what candidates they would like to see on the Green Party ballot, and we were very general. We put everybody we could think of that was running, including Trump and Biden. And the person who came up top dog with 50% approval was Jesse Ventura. So there was a draft Jesse campaign, and just like with Cornell, sometimes these people, they don't even communicate with the candidates themselves. They just run these campaigns as fundraisers and ways to raise money for themselves, and it's really distasteful, and it really brings down the whole party. So in 2020, the Green National Party decided that the Green Party of Alaska, along with but New Hampshire and I believe Georgia and Louisiana, weren't green enough. They weren't following the national narrative, and so they forced us out. And so since 2021, the Green Party of Alaska has joined with several states in being an independent Green Party. Essentially, what happened this year was we never heard from the Green Party again. They didn't try to reach out to us to build any kind of coalition. I did receive a call earlier this year from someone who had identified themselves as the Cornell West ballot access manager and asked if we would be supporting Cornell West. Well, at that time, I think this was the summer of 2023. We were like, well, we haven't even decided on who the campaign nomination is going to be. So I told him that we were looking at holding some debates and we were looking to weigh our options. And that was the last to call. And then the next thing I found out from, talking to you, Josh, was the fact that this Aurora party had established itself. I called the guy. He's not in Alaska. They have no representation in Alaska. They have no website. They have no effort to actually do any state party building. And they're just forcing Cornell onto the ballot and confusing people about what the Green Party is. So if the Green Party of the United States doesn't want us to be part of their federation, that is their choice. But we are the Green Party of Alaska. And for them to expend resources, and I doubt even their own membership knows what's going on, to expel resources to force their way into another state and to try to try to overthrow the existing legitimate party is a violation of everything it stands for to be Greens. And then I've heard of people saying, oh, well, some people approve of what you guys did and they would like to see you, some reunification with the Green Party. Well, we're certainly open to that, but it's going to take a lot of honest discussions and some transparency. Like, I know, Josh, for many years, you were a solid supporter of the Green National Party, but in the 2 years before I met you, while I was chair, the money you sent to the Green National Party, none of that came back to the state parties. Now, John, is it traditional that the national parties support the state parties and share the resources that they're given, or was it an unrealistic expectation that the national party would want to help support and grow the state party?
Well, as far as money, the national party has been struggling for years. The revenue is down, the membership is down, so they need every penny they can get. So, if anything, there may be support, for candidates, possibly, but that would be few and far between as far as financially. But I remember earlier, we had very, very robust state and national meetings. I've been to, I think, 3 of the national meetings and multiple of the ones here in Maine, the state ones. And we used to, initially, when I first came back in the early 2000s, we might have 50, 60, 70, 80 people at our state convention. Now we might get 30, maybe not even that. And the last few years, they've been reluctant to have in-person meetings because they were terrified of COVID. So it's been just kind of a Zoom call, and I had no interest in doing that. I might go back again if they have an in-person one, but it's been everybody's, practically all the people that I knew have been cowed into submission by this I guess medical terrorism, you might call it, of be very afraid, don't go here, don't do that, wear your mask, all that. So, but some of us, have resisted, and I actually now have more connection with those who lean Republican than I do Green. I mean, there's a lot. I'm meeting regularly with what I call the vax resistors, who also are quite politically aware on a number of issues, and very much into the kind of things you are about self-sufficiency as a community. That's where a lot of the people that I'm now associating with, and they're not Greens, but they have more Green in their bones, I guess I might say, than the former colleagues.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affair, and one of the reasons that I hesitated to be, and many people hesitate to belong to the Green Party is that over the last 20 years, when we started, we had one issue: the environment. That's what our focus, that was our calling, that was our foundation. But over the last 20 years, I've seen the Green Party both nationally and internationally, try to be relevant, try to be something to everyone in attempts to bring new people into the party. And it's unfortunately seemed to have the opposite effect, where the Green Party really doesn't mean anything to anybody because we can't get ourselves organized to actually be a force to reckon with. And then the Democrats, the Republicans don't seem to have any concern with us at all, but the Democrats, they vilify us up and down. And like I said, it's been my experience that since 2016, the Democrats have taken efforts to infiltrate and take over all the environmental issues. So now whenever you give money to an environmental group, it goes to the Democratic Party, even though they claim nonpartisanship and non-political. They're only, you can see very clearly that the only answers that they have are promote the Green New Deal, which is a political platform that the Democrats stole from the Green Party, and then vote Democrat. And you can, if you track all the people who are in administrative roles in these organizations, they're all Democrats. So the Democrats have tried to take over the environmental issues to try to draw in and absorb the Greens. But the problem is they've weaponized the environment against the economy. And so the Republicans and the conservatives, they have no choice but to resist this, what they call a woke mentality. And I can see their perspective, because it's all about, it becomes less about self-reliance and self-governance and more about centralized control and centralized authority, which is what the Green National Party seems to be really focusing on as being very authoritarian. And if you don't follow,
and if I can jump in on that, I'm quite convinced that a number of the real obstacles within the Green Party are operatives coming out of the Democrats that have probably been directed, go join the Greens and create dissension and argue this and just be a nuisance to them. I think that's part of their plan.
yeah.
And also, as far as the environment, there's this whole focus on CO2 being our enemy. I had a wake-up call when I actually did the math on it. When CO2 is not the enemy, but pollution is, and industrial smog, the particulates in the air. But CO2, if you look at the math of 350 and now currently apparently 425 parts per million, that is absolutely tiny in the atmosphere. And the difference between 425 parts per million and 350 rather, which they want us to get to, the difference is 0.0075%. I mean, that is absolutely minuscule. And so CO2 is not the enemy. We got lots of issues, including the aerial spraying, including depleted uranium, what to do with the waste of the nuclear power plants. It goes on and on. There's many, many things. The deforestation of the rainforest is huge. And acidification from these aerial spraying. So many things, but it's not CO2.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like I said, they've weaponized a lot of stuff. You can see when, from the early days of the pandemic, when they shut down all the planes and everybody was staying home, the earth started coming back. The earth can heal itself. And all of our issues are all about what the impacts that we have on the environment, not the impacts the environment has on us. I've talked to some conservatives who well, I don't think that we should make climate change an issue because China's not making it an issue. Well, that's the stupidest reason I've ever heard not to take action, is because somebody else isn't doing their part. That's not how responsibility works. But I agree that these issues are not the issues that are the real issues. It's the impacts that we're making our consumer choices. Like, a lot of people talk about population being an issue. Well, yeah, if everybody on the planet consumed that the way Americans do, yeah, we got no time. But just as an offset, if everybody on the planet consumed the way that the people in the jungle in Africa, in the Amazon do, we could sustain our population. The point is how we live, how we choose to interact with our environment, and how we choose to interact with each other. And that's why that's why we want to do this show, so that people know that the Green Party of Alaska is here We stand for the environment, and we will continue to stand for the environment regardless of what the Democrats, the Republicans, or the corporate media tries to complain about us on. And they made the same complaints about us. I heard arguments that the Green Party in Alaska was just we were all CIA operatives, that our whole purpose is to keep the Green Party from ever being invalid. And this is coming from people who are in the Green Party. So this is why this conversation needs to happen. That's why I'm really grateful that you guys are making the time to put this show together. And I look forward to what we're able to accomplish over the next couple of episodes.
Well, Robert, while we're talking the environment, and this report has something to do with it. Have you read the Arctic report that just came out recently?
Read in detail, no, but I'm familiar with what they're trying to accomplish in order to be able to open ANWR for what they claim to be economically responsible development, and it's not. There are so many ways that we can derive economic value from protecting the natural systems. We've actually been working on a program called NF Trees, which demonstrates the economic value of a pristine cubic meter of biosphere to provide habitat, clean water, and food. These are things that can't easily be replicated by machines. So it's the idea: do you cut down a tree and plant and build and buy an air conditioner, or do you just leave the tree intact and don't need the air conditioner? These are the kind of subtle framework perspective changes that we need to be looking at, because a lot of the issues that people claim are issues are not issues. They're results. They're what's the word I'm looking for? They're symptoms.
Consequences.
Yeah, they're symptoms and consequences of root problems that we don't address. And going back to the monetary issue with the Green Party, had the Green Party taken even half the money that Josh was, let's say he was sending him $100 a month. So even if the Green Party nationally had sent back $50 of that a month, that would have been huge in helping the Green Party to build our campaigns. But when we have all of our state money going to a national party and none of it coming back, it really strangles us to be able to do anything, because then we've got to fundraiser on our own and fundraise for national, and national's not doing anything to help us raise. They have the databases, they have the contacts, they have the support structure. They can help the Green parties in each state become forces to be reckoned with. But they have repeatedly decided not to make those efforts into state parties, not just Alaska, but Maine, New Hampshire, Georgia. And without making those investments, we don't have strong state parties. Without a strong state party, I don't think we can have, or without strong state parties, I don't think we can have a strong central platform. And so that's why I think that the Green Party, in order for it to survive and thrive, really needs to recognize that it's a grassroots organization, and it is in supporting the states that they get the national support that they need. That would be my solution and recommendation to them on how to build back the party of being able to be relevant and have impact.
There was other things I wanted to ask, but we are going on an hour time limit. So and there was other things we wanted to discuss, but what you've been involved, Robert, you've been involved a little bit longer than I have. So can you tell us when you entered politics and after that, like a little bit of background on your history in politics, like what you feel like your biggest achievement after all these years has been?
Sure. Well, I've been involved in politics since I was in high school in student government and the environmental club. I went to an environmental college in Vermont where I earned a degree in natural resource management and studied a pioneering course of garbology. I spent 10 years in Portland, Oregon, an arguable mecca of green development, learning about sustainable development, sustainable education, and we actually participated in the construction of the P8C solar system, which is an 823 kilowatt solar array that's still in operation on a nonprofit in downtown Portland. And this led the way to third-party flips and other innovative ways for schools and nonprofits to be able to take advantage of all the tax credits and stuff that they usually aren't able to. So these are and then in Alaska, I've run for mayor. I've been engaged with the city and the community. This last year, we managed to, I think one of our biggest accomplishments was we managed to draw in private equity investors who provided us a letter of support for a $250 million project. And we've been able to use that to garner unanimous support from our borough, which is like our county, our city, and the utilities. So now we're moving forward with trying to put, and this is not part of the Green Party, but it's still part of the same philosophy where we are advocating to turn our schools into solar power plants so we can start paying our teachers more and use that money to reduce our operating costs so we can not have to charge our landowners so much in taxes and can regenerate some of that revenue back into other programs like state spending, social services, things that improve the quality of life. But there's so much waste in government, and a large part of it comes from the lack of energy. So a lot of people would say that getting Jesse Ventura on the ballot in 2020 was a great achievement, and I think it was. But to answer your question, I think my greatest achievement to the Green Party has been this year in encouraging and getting us to adopt Treknomics as a framework to help connect regenerative economics to people who aren't familiar with regeneration or permaculture, but are very anti-capitalist or very beyond capitalism. And because as silly as it may seem to some, the concepts promoted by Star Trek are about stewardship, are about lifting each other up, and about always striving to become the next version of our best selves. And I think those are ideals worth striving for. And when we have so many people arguing over so many different things, setting the pace of the conversation by using specific terminology drives the conversation. So now people are asking, what is Treknomics? What does it mean? Well, there's a book about how those concepts can actually translate into real economic principles. And then we've been working with Graham Boyd and the Evolute 6 team to be able to get permaculture and regenerative economics integrated into business and government agencies. So these improvements and moving towards more economic solutions, I think, are part of what help us build our power as a party, as well as to protect the planet and her people. This, I believe, is the most substantial contribution I have made to date to the Green Party in Alaska, as well as to hopefully the Green Renaissance movement that we're working to build.
And it's fantastic. So we got a couple of minutes here. Robert, we could talk to you all day, but I think everyone's on the schedule. One thing I was wondering was, we're doing a lot. What do you feel like others like there's other Green parties like we talked about. There's this Robert and I are in the Green Party of Alaska. John's involved with the group in Maine. What do you feel like we're doing that other states could replicate? Like, because I'm not sure exactly what their operations are like, honestly.
Well, one of the
Can I talk about Maine a little bit?
Yeah, actually, John,
Yeah. What's interesting here is that we have called ourselves the Maine Green Independent Party, and people relate to the independent. A lot of people that are officially part of the Maine Green Independent Party think they are simply independent and not part of any party, which actually allows us to boost our numbers. We have nominally something like 40,000 registered Green Party people in Maine. But we have no idea. These are people on the voter lists, but we don't know mostly who they are. They don't come out to meetings. They don't come forward and say, "Hey, how can I get involved?" And so we only meet them if we get petitions for our candidates. And then usually, if they are Green members, they say, "Hey, good to see you. Thanks for coming over." and a lot of them are surprised, well, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I might as well sign. But normally, I think we have I think more Greens in Maine with a population of 1.2 million than any other state except California, as far as the actual numbers. But a lot of them, like I said, their names on a paper, and that's about all. So it's been frustrating to have such little participation. We probably have 20 people that are actually active in the state. That's it. So that's been my experience. We earlier we had more than that, but and then at our state conventions we might have as much as 30, 35 if we're lucky. So okay, Robert, back to you.
Well, building on that, that's exactly part of the reason of what I feel like the Green Party is doing that other parties could be doing. One, recognizing that, within the party framework, there's only so much good we can do. That the majority of the good we do is as private citizens. When we consciously make decisions about how we invest our time, our energy, and our limited resources. I don't participate in the Green Party or politics because I think it's fun. I think it's part of my responsibility as a citizen to ensure the freedoms that people have ensured I have. So for me, participation in politics is a civic duty, not an obligation, and certainly not a way to be part of any social club. The activities that we're engaged in Alaska, I think, could be models for other states, in like what you were just saying, John, focusing on the issues and focusing on the variety of things. A large part of what we've had success in doing is promoting the third party agenda. Unlike the Democrats and the Republicans, Greens don't necessarily win just by getting Greens on the ballot. Greens win whenever there's somebody besides a Republican and a Democrat in office, because that provides the perspective that we as a country need. Our country is all about perspective, and the more diversity we have in our representing body, the more perspective we have. And that gives us resources to see the same issue from different perspectives. I mean, we could all three hear the same facts, and we would see it from three different perspectives. And we can argue over that, or we can recognize that by learning from each other, our own perspectives broaden. And I think that engaging civically, economically, is also something that members of other Green state parties can do. But more importantly, I think promoting the third party agenda, the diversity of perspectives, is one of the ways that the Green Party can actually become more relevant and a power of change, not just trying to push our agenda, but trying to push the agenda that the people deserve perspective and choices. Choices are what democracy is all about, and we have a responsibility to be able to provide them to them.
Oh, thank you, Robert.
One more thing. A few years ago, I met with the chair while I was chair of the Green Party. I met with the chair of the Libertarian Party, and two or three of their people and a few of our people together, and we had a 2.5 hour meeting. And after that, we were able to come up with 10 items that we agreed on. And I would encourage that model to be done. It was very cordial, a lot of respect, and it was good fun. I wish there'd been momentum to pursue that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Green Party and the Libertarian Party were collaborated in 2020 when we got the ranked choice voting into Alaska's system. It wasn't just the Green Party, it wasn't just the independent group. It was a collaboration from different parties and different perspectives. And Alaska is not a green state, but it's also not a red state or a blue state. It's what people call a purple state. I mean that there are most people who claim to be independent and just independent of nonpartisan because they don't want to get involved in what they see as cliquey behavior that's more conducive to a high school clique than it is to a mainstream political party. And I think that we have to create those opportunities for people to be involved as the way that makes most sense to them, but make it happen in a fashion where we can build our collective power. And that happens by working not only with other parties within our state and other organizations, but also working with other parties in other states. So I thank you, John, for making the effort to be here this morning and to be part of this effort, and for your long years of service to the Green Party. Josh, I thank you for being part of the Green Party and the work you're doing up at Kotzebue. And Justin, I appreciate you being in the background here to help us make this show go smoothly and to get all the bells and whistles working right. So I appreciate you guys
Yeah,
taking
and
this morning.
thanks for showing up. And so this show is different than my previous podcast. And I think what we're gonna do, well, really quick, my favorite podcast is Ralph Nader's podcast, and he always he makes a point when he has an author on his show and they're talking about his books. Like, he really appreciates and gives points to people. Well, I mean, that's how I'm gonna phrase it. Sorry, but he appreciates when someone that has solutions in it. And this podcast is gonna be different because we're gonna end every show with what I'd like to call a call to action. We're having advocates on, we're having people involved in politics. So I'd like to know, Robert, what are you currently doing in politics right now, and how, if someone say, "Oh, this guy's really cool, I'd like to be involved," how could they do that? And we're gonna ask, and I'm gonna, it might get repetitive every week, but I'll talk about what I'm doing and how you can join us, and John's gonna do the same as well.
Well, and that's the biggest part. That's the biggest thing I think that we can bring, that this show can bring to people, and people can bring to the conversation, is it's not just political. But just being involved, people can do things. And like I said before, we are active in our own internal advocacy, and that's a great place to end the show, is indicating what we're doing in our own lives. So I work for a nonprofit called the Alliance for Reason and Knowledge, and we've been focusing on workforce development for regenerative economies for marginalized citizens. So people taking people off the street, people who are immigrating, people who are coming out of prison, and providing them with not only job training, but wraparound services so that they can become community leaders and take these lessons back to their home countries, so we can spread resilience and permaculture across the world. That's my kind of advocacy that I've been working on. I know, John, you've got things that you've been working on your own too, and Josh as well. So what you got going on with your own advocacy there, John?
What am I doing? I do a lot of communicating. I am very low tech, but I do thousands of emails. I read prodigiously, and then I find things and say, okay, who needs to hear this? And so I relay to colleagues all over the country, and occasionally to people outside the country. I have a good friend that came from Maine named Regis Tremblay, who's a filmmaker, and he's been in Crimea for the past 4 years. He was so disgusted with the politics of the U.S. and the corruption and all the negativity that we're quite familiar with. And he had been over to see Russia a few times, and has now been in Yalta for 4 years, and he continues to do broadcasts from there. And I am in touch with him on a fairly regular basis, and he does hundreds of these interviews. So that's just one outside the country. Of course, I continue to be in contact with Hawaii and its struggle for regaining full independent sovereignty. That could be another topic that I am kind of an expert on that subject, being deeply immersed in it, but we'll leave that for another time, if interested.
Yeah, and I'm involved in a lot of things. Right now, I'm involved with several projects in the Green Party of Alaska. So if you're in Alaska, we're gonna start doing General Assembly meetings. I mean, we do them, but we're gonna advertise them, get them out there. We realize that, if you want to participate, we have to advertise that. We're gonna get into doing that. I'm not we meet every Sunday, but it's not always a General Assembly meeting. I mean, you understand sometimes the officers will need to talk, but you know that's how it is. To oh, I'm not. We didn't even make a real decision. Robert, is Sunday our next is our first General Assembly meeting of the year, or you know, I don't think we decided that.
Yeah, next Sunday at 10 a.m. We'll advertise our first General Assembly meeting, and I appreciate the other Green parties who are participating in our Green Renaissance group, where we're actually coordinating with Greens in other states in order to be able to come up with a national agenda as far as our 2024 priorities and platforms and stuff. But we can get into that stuff at another time. I recognize that we're reaching the top of the hour, and folks at home.
Well, we really quick, Robert. We started late, so it's the 5 minute mark where it's the hour. So I just want to let people know, if you want to find the Green Party of Alaska, it's real easy on Facebook. Look up Green Party of Alaska. If you want to find me personally, get my contact information, or like you want to know where you can find this stuff, www.joshuajhadley.com. Sorry, I only have so much bandwidth. I'm not talking to anyone on Facebook or Twitter outside some posts. So you either gotta know my number or have the email, and it's on the website. So there you go. um, so Sunday it's gonna be on Zoom. You can join us on here. We'll give the link on Facebook. We'll make sure to pin the message. We'll get it out there. Yeah, I mean, hey, we're pretty cool people. I mean, this was pretty, you know.
And
Yeah,
we will.
I'm low tech. I don't do those social media. I do emails. I do phone calls. I do postal letters sometimes.
So just so folks will know, our goal here is to get into a position where we're going to be shooting a live show every Monday morning at 7 a.m. Correct? That's the goal that we're trying to ramp up to.
I wanted to get our recording for the thing, and we started 5 minutes late.
No, but I mean, the people can start if we trying to encourage people to see this Sunday or Monday morning time frame as when they'll be able to check in on our show. Hopefully, we'll have it posted up on Substack or some way for people to join and listen live. But I believe this is the time frame that we chose to try to continue doing this.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys making the time to have me on this morning. I appreciate the efforts that you're making, and I appreciate everybody who's taken the time to join us this morning. So I will sign off, and I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of the week, and we will see you next Monday.
Aloha from Maine.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a beautiful day.